You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 438. I want to top expectations. I want to blow you away. Buster Keaton.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome to another episode of the Indie Film Hustle Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Today's show is sponsored by Indie Film Hustle's Filmmaker process. We provide filmmakers with professional services to get their films or series funded, finished, and distributed. Some of the services we offer are pitch deck creation, film budgets and schedules, domestic and international sales estimates, legal contract templates, consulting, post-production services, script coverage, professional trailer editing, poster design, film deliverables, and production payroll. To learn more, go to www.filmmakerprocess.com. Today's show is sponsored by Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, how to turn your independent film into a profitable business. It's harder today than ever before for independent filmmakers to make money with their films. From predatory film distributors ripping them off to huckster film aggregators who prey upon them, the odds are stacked against the indie filmmaker. The old distribution model of making money with your film is broken, and there needs to be a change. The future of independent filmmaking is the entrepreneurial filmmaker or the filmtrepreneur. In Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, I break down how to actually make money with your film projects and show you how to turn your indie film into a profitable business. With case studies examining successes and failures, this book shows you the step-by-step method to turn your passion into a profitable career. If you're making a feature film, series, or any other kind of video content, the Filmtrepreneur method will set you up for success. The book is available in paperback, ebook, and of course, audiobook. If you want to order it, just head over to www.filmbizbook.com. That's filmbizbook.com. Well, guys, we are in the Sundance Film Festival season. It has just finished up, but I wanted to take you on a journey. I wanted to take you on the dream path that all independent filmmakers dream of. Making your first movie, getting it accepted to Sundance, and selling it for a record-breaking $17.5 million. Well, that's exactly what our guest did. Today's guest is filmmaker Max Barbakow, who is the filmmaker behind Palm Springs, which holds the record for the largest purchase price of any independent film ever at the Sundance Film Festival. And it holds that record by 69 cents. That's right. They paid him $17.5 million and 69 cents. There's a whole story behind that, I promise you. Now, in this episode, Max and I talk about his rise on how he got the film made, how he was able to get Andy Samberg attached and J.K. Simmons, how they got it into Sundance. And I've never been in the room when there's been a bidding war at Sundance for a film. But in today's episode, you're going to be a fly on the wall on what it's like to be in that bidding war in the middle, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in a hotel room somewhere at Sundance while the lawyers and the agents are all battling it out. And Max was literally there, just front row seat, just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And we are going to go through that journey. I hope this episode is inspiring to you because it inspired me. So without any further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Max Barbakow. I'd like to welcome to the show Max Barbakow. How are you doing, Max?
Good, man. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the show, man. I've always said, I told my wife this, and it didn't happen. When my wife was pregnant, I said, if we have boys, my boy is going to be named Max Ferrari, which would be
a dope name.
That would be an amazing name. I actually wanted to go Maximus, Max for short. I mean, let's just go straight up. Let's do this if we're going to go. And she's like, I'm so glad we didn't have any boys because that would have been an argument.
My mom wanted to name my brother Max. My brother's 7 years older than me. And my dad was like, Nope, vetoed. Max is the name for an old dude who smokes cigars. My mom was like, all right, whatever. And then I come along, and I guess he had changed his tune, but he did not like it initially. I'll take it though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. So, before we get started, man, how did you get started in the business?
It kind of happened with Palm Springs, but I grew up in a fam that really like valued movies. So it was always kind of something that I was allowed to dream about doing, which is cool. I know a lot of people, it's like a very foreign thing. And I grew up in Santa Barbara, California, just up the coast. So LA was kind of like nearby too. And it demystified the whole exercise of making stuff. And I just always knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. So like started in documentary filmmaking, which seemed like a little more attainable, just because you could go out and shoot and then figure out what the story was kind of like as you were doing it, you know. There was like a low a less involved, less of a blank page to stare at, let's say. Started doing that, was doing freelance documentary stuff. I made a documentary about my adoption. That was a feature length film. That was kind of the first real thing I ever made coming out of college.
Which is Mommy, I'm a Bastard.
Mommy, I'm a Bastard.
Which, by the way, that's a great story. I saw that clip on your website,
Thanks,
website.
man.
It was so hilarious when your mom was telling the story. Like, hey, Mom, I'm a bastard.
Yeah.
But that must have been, as a filmmaker, that must have been cathartic just to kind of go through that whole process.
Totally. I mean, just to start something, it was the first thing I started and finished too. Like that. That's a big cathartic.
That's a big thing for a filmmaker, and a feature, no less.
Exactly, and then to pour yourself into it in a very intense way, and kind of do a lot of personal inventory and excavation, and kind of feel like I had become someone else by the end of it. I'd kind of like evolved. Was a super cool feeling. And I think I kind of got addicted to that, which is why Palm Springs is a little bit of the same way. It was a very personal movie and a very intense kind of personal process with my buddy Andy Samberg, who wrote the movie. And I love doing it because I think I liked when I realized what making movies really was. I always liked that too. The idea that you would kind of chart your life through projects and kind of always go back to a moment and look at a project that you had made or something and think about where you were as you were making it. So it was always, I don't know, I didn't know what I was doing when I was making My Name a Bastard, which I also am always trying to get back to too, that feeling of just like kind of learning a new language every time you're making something and kind of just jumping into the deep end. But it really was just a great exercise in every facet of the process. Like I cut that movie myself, shot that movie myself. I kind of like produced it myself. My brother did the music. But I got my feet wet and I was able to get a job. I took that movie to a film festival and met a couple of the producers that had done Silver Linings Playbook. It was the year that was out, and I got a job because one of them had a kid that was adopted. We kind of connected over the film. And I bothered the other one for a long time trying to get a job on David O. Russell's next movie, which at that time was American Hustle. And I got a job doing locations on that movie out in Boston, which was an incredible thing. And it was kind of like, I knew I wanted to go into narrative. It was a dream, but that was kind of the bridge to go do narrative. Like the next year I went to film school at AFI. I kind of got into film school at the same time. And I was like, well, just watch that guy make a movie. Just made my own movie. Now I could like kind of really feel like I'd kind of earned or like had the necessary experience to go into like directing on a set, working with other department heads and stuff like that. And then AFI was great. And that was kind of like, I met Andy Samberg there, who was a good buddy and a great collaborator, and made a lot of stuff together there with him. And out of school, decided we wanted to do a feature together, went out to Palm Springs to brainstorm, came back with the idea of Niles. And it kind of was a very unruly creative process from there. Like, I know you said you like Groundhog Day, but it did not start as a time loop idea initially. We very much arrived at that a little into the process. But that's kind of how I got into making stuff.
So, okay. So, and you did a bunch of shorts with Andy as well.
Yeah.
And so I have to ask, because, you've basically lived out the dream of most filmmakers around the world, whereas in you make a movie, it's there. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show. You make a movie. You're kind of you're living the dream that every filmmaker dreams of, which is essentially, hey, I'm going to go write my movie with my buddy, and we're going to go attach, an Oscar winner and really famous comedian and some other really amazing talent, and then we're going to shoot it, and then we're going to go to Sundance. We're going to send it to Sundance, get accepted to Sundance, and then we happen to go there and sell it and make it the biggest sale by 69 cents ever at Sundance. I mean, you're essentially living the dream. So before we get to all of that amazing part of the story, how did you go from making shorts to going to Palm Springs to figure out an idea for a script, which, by the way, everyone listening right here everyone's got an idea. Everyone's writing a script.
Yeah.
How did you get that package? How did you get Andy and JK involved and the producer? Like, how did you get this whole thing off the ground?
Well, the idea of going to make a feature after a lot of shorts in film school is just kind of an idea of desperation, kind of, like we didn't want to wait around and wait for an opportunity. And we had been given the opportunity to make a lot of stuff already, and we didn't want that to go to waste. So it was like, we got to make something. Also, as I have been drilled so much in film school that I felt like I had lost my instincts a little bit. So like the mission with the movie was never to go attach big actors like that or even make it on the scale that we made it at. It was like, let's go make something weird that feels like us and could, around one location in a way that would help us rediscover our instincts a little bit. And it evolved from that place into something, after it wasn't even a wedding movie to begin with. It was I think it took place on New Year's, and it was an existential comedy. We like to say it was like an absurd version of Leaving Las Vegas, like the dark comedy version of that movie. Like a hipster goes to Las Vegas to die, and then learns the meaning of life, and decides to live. But it just evolved. It was kind of leaning into the process that we had kind of figured out for ourselves, Andy and I, which was locking ourselves in a room and trying to make each other laugh and try to make each other kind of acting as each other's therapists a little bit. And that's how a lot of those philosophical conversations about life and relationships. I mean, the movie was born out of a very busy wedding season where stuff started to feel the same. And I was like hopelessly single, and Andy had just gotten married in Palm Springs and was kind of looking down the barrel at his life, really stoked, but wondering if he was ever going to be as happy as he was on his wedding night, and kind of those things were ingredients in this kind of this alchemic exercise. And it just got to a place where, putting two commitment phobes stuck at the same wedding together felt like a really fertile premise for a movie, putting characters in their own version of hell. And we just followed the idea and worked really hard at it. And by the time the script was good, it had obviously gotten way bigger than a little movie you could just go shoot in the desert. There was like a time portal and dinosaurs and shit. So we, Andy Ciara got a manager who kind of knew what to do with it. He kind of became the third collaborator on the film and sent it around town, sent it around LA. And it got good reads, and it got passed up through UTA where Samberg is represented, and Samberg read it and was like, okay, I'll meet these guys. And we went in to go meet with them and had a conversation, and I kind of pitched the vision for the movie, and we got super lucky in that he was seeing the same movie that we were seeing, which was like, a comedy, yes, but something a little more driven by pathos, especially for him. There's, it's a different turn for him. When we had the opportunity to meet with him in The Lonely Island, as like potential producers, and then, him to star, it kind of clicked. It's like, oh yeah, this could be our version of Eternal Sunshine or Punch Drunk Love, a little more hard comedy, but like a generational talent and a goofball in terms of a comedian doing a different turn, something a little edgier for him. And it all kind of clicked in. We're like, oh, this could be something pretty cool. And when he said, that he wanted to do it and that they would produce and he would star, and that I, was still going to get to direct it too at that level, it was an incredible thing.
Yeah. So that's one thing I want to ask, because I've sat in those meetings. I've been in those meetings with actors and things. And getting you to be the first time director and them giving you the reins of and I don't know if you've even mentioned what the budget is. Can you say what the budget is?
It was like under $5.
Right.
To get the tax credit, but it was like at the time it was like $4 or something like that.
Yeah. So to and that's a fairly large first film. Yeah, with basically your only narrative being a handful of shorts, and your documentary that you'd done, years earlier.
Samples for it, that weren't similar in any way to the idea. So it was like not like here's the short that could be the feature.
Right, exactly. So
that guy.
So it was basically you had a champion in Andy Samberg. Yeah. He basically said, "I see your vision. You're going to direct it. Let's make it happen."
Yeah, and it was beautiful because if Andy CR and I hadn't gone in together, I don't think it might have played out in a different way. I think they recognized, because they're buddies, like the Lonely Island came up together and they're friends. I think they saw us as buds wanting to make this thing. They saw how they could help us make it even better. And they're like, that's cool. Like, we'll do it, And we're so lucky they were into that. So we spent the summer after we first met them kind of doing a polish on the script together in that room that Andy and I had been in, exercising our romantic demons and making each other laugh. It just kind of got bigger with those guys and Becky Sloviter, who was our other producer who ran their company. And it was amazing. It was unreal.
It is very dreamlike. I mean, as a director though, as you're walking through this path, I mean, you've heard every filmmaker's heard these stories. Has heard, I always use El Mariachi, or you use the Kevin Smith, or these kind of stories that you hear of this happening, but you're like, but when you're in it, like, how does that feel? Like, you're like, did you have a feeling? Because I know I did. I've come close too many damn times to even count. But at some point, do you just go, this is going to fall apart at any effing second?
Always, every day.
They're going to fire me any second now.
That's it. That's totally it. It's like not real, but what you could focus on is the work,
right.
And I think it would have been totally different if again, we weren't seeing the same version of the movie,
Sure.
But like we got so lucky in that way. They really did. And because it's not a normal Lonely Island movie either. It's a little nuanced, there's a blended tone. They definitely made it funnier and helped us like with the comedy and stuff. It helped us with everything, but you quickly learn there's no room for that kind of insecurity just because there's so much stuff to do, so much stuff to think about. And especially on an indie movie too, it's like it's still the same scrappiness that we probably would have made the smaller version with. You're just dealing with incredible actors, which
makes life easier.
Everything so much better. Yeah, dude. It's so like, that was the thing when you're dealing with like anybody like Milioti, Samberg, J.K. Simmons on set, they'll do it. We shot the movie in 21 days too, so we didn't have any time.
Oh, wow.
And you're like, they'll do a take, and you're like, all right, that was good, and I have to go like pretend to talk to the grip or something to come up with a note for them. As I'm like, I gotta go talk to this guy. It's
right.
We got so lucky in that way, and that was across the board with all the department heads too, who had the same twisted sense of humor that we all had, and just really got what was at the core of this thing. So it was an incredible experience in that respect, which is what just thinking about being a filmmaker, I always kind of thought about that. It's about having partners in crime. You want to feel like you're getting away with something.
Yeah, absolutely. And Andy, I've been a big fan of Andy Samberg for a long time.
So good.
Back from the SNL days. I mean, I followed his career. I've watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I mean, like he's awesome. He's awesome. And he's a very unique voice in the way he does his thing. Totally.
And Filmmakers too. I didn't really realize it until we were working all together, but those guys were some of the first filmmakers that I looked up to when they were because they were just making stuff together and putting it on the internet, Channel 101, YouTube, all that stuff. And you're in high school, you're like, oh, these guys rule, like we should do that. Like that's some of the first stuff I made was like ripoffs of like Dear Sister and The Boo and stuff. So it was really, they're filmmakers too, not just comedians or performers.
No, absolutely. Now, so at what point did the story turn into this Groundhog's Day-esque, time loop thing? Because, and please correct me, is Groundhog's Day the first time there was a time loop in a movie, in a comedy, or is it just the most famous version of it?
I think so. there's like, as with anything that's successful, I think there was like controversy when it came out that it was stolen from something like a foreign film or something like that. But I think it's
probably it's a French film.
Broke.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show. Yeah, it's double leak. It was like double leak.
But yeah, it evolved. I mean, we just started thinking about, it really came from a place of character because we spent so much time working on like thinking about who these people were and their kind of compartmentalized versions of both like Andy Samberg and myself, Sarah and Niles. That came first, the foundations, and Roy came in like way later. That was like the last thing we put into the draft, like a third person.
He was great.
So great.
It was so great.
Right before we sent it out. Yeah.
When that happened, when I watched, it's a spoiler alerts, everybody. But when that happened, when I saw that arrow just show up, I'm like, what? And then when you see, it's like, oh, it's JK. Oh, yes, that's perfect.
He was the best. He's like, no, we were trying to figure out schedule. I was like, no, I will be running through the desert. I will be doing all that stuff myself. Like this needs to happen, which is awesome.
All right. So it's working as a director, especially your first time working as on a project of this magnitude. How do you direct an actor like Andy Samberg, who's basically, he does very, very good improv, and he's kind of like, you just kind of like corral the lightning almost, because he's like lightning in a bottle all the time, right?
Yeah, but he was very aware because we had done work on the script together, and he comes from a writing perspective too, and he's a producer on the movie. So it was like having when Cristin came in, it was the same way. We had less time together, like in prep, but it was having like creative partners, less than like, it was not like a mystery that you're trying to shroud an actor in. They were very aware of like what this thing was and why it was special, and their chemistry was going to be the engine of the movie. So for Andy, I think he was attracted to it because it was a completely different turn for him. He's playing like an indifferent, defeated person for the first part of the movie, and that was the challenge. He was like always very aware of anything that would be considered too arch, or too wild or too goofy. And we were always kind of checking each other, but like he had it in him, he's done turns on that are a little more serious, like in Celeste and Jesse. He did that movie, and that was one of those where you're like, oh, he has that. Like that guy is a romantic lead for sure. He just had never made the decision to do it. So it was honestly just like a lot of communication, and it was like on this one, I realized every actor, because we had a pretty big ensemble. It's like a two-hander, at its core, but there are a lot of different actors, and everybody worked in a really different way. So it's just about kind of like having that conversation up front. How do you like to work? Like what can I give you as a director? The way that I like to do things, it's like, let's talk about how it could be of help to you. And with Andy, it was a lot of, and Cristin too, it was always a lot of like conversations beforehand. Like we did some rehearsals and then just trying different versions of it on the day, because we didn't have a lot of time, like I said. So it's like, let's get it right. Just that intangible feeling where it's like, this is the best version of it. Now let's go way this direction. And then we'll do one that is completely out of left field. And then you kind of make choices in the edit.
So when working with someone like JK, who, obviously is an Oscar winner, he's amazing. He's played some very intense guys in his films. I'm assuming there was some sort of intimidation just meeting him and having the potential of working with him. How does a first-time director direct an Oscar-winning actor? Like, what is that process like? I mean, I've had other guests, and I've worked with Oscar nominees as well in my work, and I just go, how do you want to be directed? Like, I'm just here, because there's some people, like, if you're like, how can you direct Meryl Streep? Like, how does that work? So I'm assuming JK similar.
Yeah, I mean, he's intimidating just because of the roles that you associate him with, and he's also just been doing it for so long. He's such a pro and such a legend. But the thing that I realized is that everybody wants to be directed. That's what they're there for. Actors want to collaborate. Actors want to be directed. Like he connected to the script and really liked the script, and he had worked with Samberg before too. So there was that familiarity. They had played father and son in I Love You, Man. So they were friends. So he was there to have a blast and give it a go. And like, again, it's just communication.
It's just
how
talking.
you like to work. And also, like, how can we make this as easy for you as possible on our shitty little movie for you, legend? And it's like, I think he appreciated that too. And he came with so many ideas. That's the thing. It's like these people are legendary because they're so smart and so talented. But it is for them about the work. It's their, if they're not, J.K. Simmons is not resting on his Oscar, like, and I'm sure Meryl Streep isn't resting on any of her nominations. She's just trying to do work that can make her feel alive, probably.
Yeah. It's just about how I think your answer is absolutely on point, which is communication. Like just seeing, because everyone's different. Like Meryl and Denzel might want to be talked to differently and worked with differently than JK did. And you just have to have that open and then adjusting your directing style accordingly to them, not them adjusting it towards you, because that's not going to work as much. Yeah.
One thing I realized, it's like, and it helped even when it just everybody knowing what the coverage was, obviously like at the top of the scene, and there was no time. So just like communication is everything. And if you could get through a scene, then you could have time to give people opportunities to play around, which is always great because JK especially just had so many fun ideas, and we were shooting out of order. So sometimes it was like, we've already established that side. Like we can't do that, but that is like, that's why you're you, man.
Right. Yeah, when you work with people of that caliber, you just like, God, you make it think so easy. As a director, it makes life so much easier than having to pull everything. Now, what was your expectation for this film? I mean, obviously it has Andy Samberg, it has all these big, big stars, but it's still a little indie, 5 million below indie film and in a marketplace that is full of, good content. What was your expectation for this?
I mean, initially before Samberg, it was like, let's raise $50,000 or something like that from friends and go make something and just get a notch in the belt. And that still is what it still was. It's like, let's ride the creative energy of this and go make it. And then when Samberg comes on board, like in that first conversation, we all agreed the goal was to go to Sundance, and sell the movie. Like we weren't trying to go to a studio next. It was like, let's go make this on the sly and have a Sundance experience and see what we can do. And that was awesome that we got in. I got the call and I almost didn't pick it up because I thought it was spam, and I picked it up and it was a couple weeks earlier than I thought they would be calling. And it was a sprint to the Sundance deadline in the edit too, that was kind of crazy. And they wanted us, and then they wanted us in the U.S. dramatic competition too, which is like it's
like 12 movies.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, they're taking this seriously. So it still was like, let's go, let's have a good time. Like I learned very early on, even going into that first meeting with The Lonely Island, it's like, don't have any expectations. Just like enjoy the ride. If you have any expectations there, it's going to be way different than you think it's going to be. So like, we knew we had made something that we liked. We had no idea what to expect. We thought we had a good chance at selling it, but obviously not at the level that we did. And like, a lot of people kept telling us when we were in the edit, show it to friends and stuff, and it would be, it doesn't really feel like a Sundance movie to me. And it's like, oh, that sucks. like thanks for the note.
Thanks.
I think it helped us ultimately in the sale and in the reception that it was there. We were in a year, there were a couple comedies, but not really, I think it was kind of a cathartic release for people in that festival experience to go see something that was like kind of full of joy and irreverence and a little different and kind of an escape from what normally is a lineup filled with like amazingly poignant films that are really intense,
heavy
and darker. Yeah. Heavy. So that helped. But like, I sat in the back in our screening in Park City, our premiere, and I had no idea how it really played. I know we got a laugh right at the beginning because it opens with a Lonely Island Classics card, and it was a room full of acquisitions people. So like that got a laugh. I was like, hey, we got one out of the way. But I had no clue until we went to our after party and like offers started rolling in, and then the response on Twitter was cool. So it was a blur, man. It was truly insane.
It was the first time you ever been to Sundance?
Yeah, I never wanted to go without having a movie in. So it was cool, and it's
What was that like?
And everything. It's like the last film festival, full film festival for the foreseeable future too, which no one could have known.
Exactly. So what was it like? I mean, because I've been to Sundance, God, like 7-8 times in my life.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show. And never had the pleasure. I've always been rejected. She's like that hot girl that always kind of teases you. She's like, maybe we'll go out on a date. Maybe. And in your mind, we're going to go out on a date. But you ran up in the first one out. You got that date.
I mean, even when you're there and you're on the date, you're like, is she going to leave? Like, sure, should I leave? Like, what? Like, I don't.
Is this?
I don't know.
It's like this. Isn't it the same?
Well, I don't know what's happening here.
Isn't it the same feeling as like at any moment someone's going to come in the door and go, you don't belong here. You need to.
Always.
It's amazing.
Always.
So you go to Sundance, you have these amazing screenings, you're getting good stuff. And then the offers are starting to come in from studios. From like platforms and distributors and stuff, it was at our premiere party. We were drinking really for the first time that weekend, like celebrating, and then go to dinner. And it's a thing where they're like, all right, stop, like sober up. Like we're going to have some meetings tonight. And it became the experience that you read about. And like, all the books about it's the all night bidding war thing where we went back to a condo and people different companies came in and were pitching us their vision for the film. And it was just so surreal to hear. Like I love in prep, like week out meetings or, just page turn meetings and going through the shit that you're trying to pull off in a movie and everybody taking stupid stuff, like blowing up a goat so seriously, like talking about it. Like it's funny to me on that level when you haven't really thought about pulling stuff off. And now you're dealing with acquisitions people, like, pitching their passion for a movie based on the same stuff. And you're talking about like loads of money. So you're just sitting there like, this is crazy. But what it meant was that more people were going to have a chance to see our movie, which was so cool. Right.
That's, I kind of had contextualized the entire Sundance experience too. It's like, well, all this means is like, it's no longer ours really. Like we've lived with this for so long and like, we're going to this festival, people are going to see it. And then like, people are either going to hate us or they're going to, they'll be okay with it. But like, it's not going to be our little thing anymore. And when there was a response from buyers, and there were offers and stuff, it was incredible because it just meant, oh my God, like more people beyond this festival are going to see the movie, they're going to bring it out into the world.
Were you involved in that process a lot? Cause are you a producer as well on the project?
Not a producer, but they were super cool. And we were all, we were up all night and all in the same meetings and stuff like that. And
so you saw firsthand, you were front row on all this stuff.
Yeah. No, I was just sitting there just like, this is great. Yeah.
How much do they offer? I'm sure the first offer that came in, you're like, yes, take it. Yes.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Like
that was the
5 million?
Yeah,
5 million? Yes. Take 5. We'll break even. It's fine. Let's just go. Let's go.
I never understood. I was thinking while we were going through it, I'm like, can't we just all go party and do this tomorrow or go to bed and do this tomorrow? Like, I don't understand. And then it's like, oh yeah, you do it all night. So they can't say like sleep on it and change their mind. That's why you go all night like that. That
makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you go to sleep tomorrow morning, this will not be here.
No, yeah.
That's basically, yeah. Cause if they wake up in the morning, it wasn't that good. I can't.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's that high. It's that high of the Sundance screening. Well, that too. How did you handle the altitude, by the way? That must have been rough.
I honestly was just all adrenaline. Like the day after, I stayed the whole time too, because I had never been. So I wanted to see movies and I wanted to meet other filmmakers and stuff, and like everybody else involved kind of left. Which it became this other experience, which I loved. Like I just was kind of like a film fan there, seeing other stuff, but I crashed after that, man.
I'm sure.
I like the adrenaline went, and I was like, I hurt all over. Like I haven't
I'm not 20 anymore.
I haven't been taking care of myself. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Sundance has
no time.
Yeah, Sundance does that to you. Yeah. That's I've gotten sick almost every time. Like last few times I've figured out how not to get sick, but you always altitude, weather change, no sleep, around a lot of people. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen this year with Sundance now because it's COVID, and I can't, they can't have there has to be a virtual version of it, but they can't be, Park City's not there. Like you can't go to Park City.
Yeah, no. And it's way different. I mean, I'm just so grateful that we had the Sunday, like we could have played South by or Tribeca, which would have been awesome, but that would have been a completely different experience, Right. So there's so many, it's such a crazy year. There's so many great films that are
getting lost.
It changed. Yeah. They got lost in it.
Now, how did you guys come up with the whole 17.5 and 69 cents? Like how did that happen?
That was Akiva, one of our producer, just came up with that. I think they're going back and forth, and 17.5 was the record. And they're like, well, if we're going to tie the record, they add like a little 69, and I just love that so much. It's like my favorite. It's my favorite thing because it also just holds a mirror up to the absurdity of the entire process. That was Akiva, like at 4 a.m. Like you should, yeah.
And now the thing is too, I mean, the amount of press that you guys got off this sale was massive. I read somewhere that Hulu got like $50 million worth of press just because they bought it for 17.5 and 69. And that 69 cents probably got it about another million or two of press that would have gotten there.
Yeah. No, totally. It worked out.
But that must have been like, and I'm assuming everybody was bidding on it. But by the way, how did NEON get involved prior to the sale to Hulu, or they together? How did that work?
They came in together. It was a partnership. It was
really?
NEON on Hulu came in. Yeah, which to me, to begin with, was like pretty cool because that just feels of this time. It's like everything is going to live on a streamer. That. But if you could have, and we were going to have a great theatrical release, and we did do drive-ins with NEON, and it's out. Film Nation is now taking it out like around the world. Like it's playing in Italy in theaters, and it's in Russia and Taiwan and stuff, which is really cool. But like that to me, I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool partnership. Like that feels like how most movies should enter the world now. It's like you figure out where it's going to live on a streamer, but then like team with a really cool taste-making company to give it a little bit of a cultural moment, right, and create a ripple. So that was always exciting to us. And they were great when the pandemic hit too, just kind of like calling an audible and figuring out a way to still make it special,
right,
despite the crazy circumstances. But they came in together, and they were great.
When did it get released? What was the time? Like what month?
July 10th.
It was a rough.
So it was like doesn't that feel like so long ago too? And it was like, I don't even know.
It feels like years ago, doesn't it?
Bread then. I don't know what stage of the pandemic it was, but it was definitely at the beginning it just felt like one big snow day or something. You're like, this is this is gonna be wacky and a little bizarre and maybe a little fun for a while. And July was definitely the point where I was like, God, fuck.
No. Everyone just strap in because the garden that I just started giving me tomatoes and and I learned how to make a mean sourdough. Like it's I got the culture. Man. Exactly. Now I have to ask you, man, how, so you have, again, you've lived the dream. I talk about the lottery ticket mentality. Like so many filmmakers, what you said was basically their entire distribution plan is we're going to make our $50,000 movie with no stars attached. And and our distribution model is to go to Sundance to get basically what you got. But the scenario, the timing, the cast, the story, everything it was a perfect storm, which is what a lottery ticket, like I've said, and I think even Robert and Kevin said this, like El Mariachi shows up today, no one cares. Clerk shows up today. No one's going to see it. It's not going to get, we don't see these directors. Those voices get squashed or it's not what we know it as today. So everyone's always looking at this lottery ticket, at Sundance. Sundance is the lottery ticket. You won that lottery ticket. So I want to find out, what is it like winning the lottery ticket in regards to your career, in regards to how the town treats you now? Because you're the belle of the ball, man. You won Sundance, the biggest movie. You just didn't win Sundance. You sold the biggest movie ever at Sundance. So I'm assuming that comes with some sort of dancing, some sort of courting from people around. So how did the town treat you, and what was that experience like?
A lot of meetings, you get to meet a lot of people. You get to just see, you get kind of a fuller concept of what the we learned a lot putting the movie together too, right? We were we had to find financing after The Lonely Island came on, and we got to know kind of what the landscape was through the agencies and all that. But yeah, just getting to meet a lot of people.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
Getting to see what projects exist, getting to kind of flirt and dabble and like think about projects, and then realize, oh yeah, you always want to be self-generating, like anyway, like it's I'm stoked that I'm gonna get to work again. That was the other thing at Sundance when it went well. I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna get to make another movie someday.
Someone's gonna pay it.
My mom is stoked. I'm like employed. It's like there's still a lot of speculative conversations, which it's always hard to sort out like what's real or not, but that's just kind of
that's
part
Hollywood.
of it. And I do say, I will say, like, I think the healthiest thing happened, which is that all this happened and I've been at home, like I think it would have been a little different if we were able to go places or go do a press tour, and it just like, it doesn't quite feel real still. It feels not. What does feel real is having like certain work to do and projects to like get off the ground and stuff. That's really cool, and they're actionable now because of the success of the movie. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's been cool, man. It's been the dream. It's like, it's always good to see something, or awesome to see something you made. People are engaging with it. It puts wind in your sails,
Oh, that's why we do what we do. I mean, we make movies so people could watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more people that watch it, the more people connect with it and actually like it. Oh my God, that's the dream, And if you can get paid,
awesome.
If you get paid somehow and continue a career, why not? I love that. It's like, hey guys, we're gonna make another movie. This is awesome. I'm actually employed for at least another couple years, at least.
Totally. No, it's like another movie, another thing, and like another thing that we like and can choose to make. It's like, it's that too. It's not just like taking the job for the sake of taking the job.
And you said something I want you to kind of clarify for people who don't understand. When you say self-generating as opposed to being like a director for hire, because I'm assuming you were pitched a ton of stuff to direct and all of that kind of stuff, and you've chosen, I don't know, what is your next project, and how do you there's
stuff that I'm attached to that were like directing assignments but like for me it's always I'm about having that balance. Like I want to be working, and I'm writing something right now that's like a passion project, and it's a labor of love, and I'm less. Why I like working with Andy a lot too, because there's just another person in the room, and it's harder for me to stare at a blank page, but I'm very passionate about this, so I could do that. But like I also want to go get back on set and stuff. So if there's stuff that I could find a way into emotionally, and I think deserves to exist, and I think could be really special, of course I'll go engage on that and try to get involved and make it. So for me, it's kind of like, it's a balance.
And what is your next project? What's the next project?
I'm writing this movie right now that's about the amazing Randy, who actually just passed away yesterday. Rest in peace. That is super exciting.
Isn't there a Jason Momoa project that you're working on?
Yeah, they're trying to figure out when we could do that because of COVID stuff and scheduling stuff. But it's called The Good, Bad, and Undead, and it's very similar. It's Peter Dinklage and Jason Momoa. It's like a buddy comedy.
Nice.
Set in like a very, very self-aware fantasy universe. Dinklage is playing the last Van Helsing, the version of Van Helsing, who's like an alcoholic and a gambling addict, and Momoa is a vampire who's taken a vow not to kill, and they con artist comedy. They go around village to village conning people. Dinklage pretends to catch Momoa, and they split the money, and then pretty soon like a big bounty's put on their head, and it becomes this giant chase movie. So it's like a very grounded human story about these two outcasts who kind of bury a lot of their shame in this heightened world, which is kind of similar to Palm Springs. I was like,
right.
Oh, that's why I read it. I was like, this is really fun. Like I could apply similar tools,
That sounds awesome. I can't wait to see that. Yeah. I hope we are actually able to get that off the ground cool. One day, hopefully.
One day, hopefully.
To get on a set again, man. Just
exactly.
I mean, as I know a lot of directors and cinematographers who are working right now, depending on where they are in the country or in the world. I mean, as a director, I haven't been on set since. I don't want anyone to die because I'm making a movie. Like, it's so.
Yeah.
How do you feel that you're going to get to come back on the job?
I think from what I've heard and read, it just is a lot. There are zones. It's a lot. Just it's the difference like between shooting on film and shooting digitally. You just have to be like very deliberate. When the stakes are a little higher and there's less room for error. So I think it just is being very thoughtful with the number of people on set, which I think is good too. I think it's an opportunity to like redefine how many people you actually need to go make these things. Right.
Yeah.
I think it's probably pretty hard for actors because you can't be as intimate. And for me, it's like, I don't know, I'll go make something if I think it's safe, but it's also, you want to make sure that you're not, when you make something on set, I feel like it's already a set of compromises. Always. It's like one compromise after, you're trying to just get it in the can. So like this COVID thing is just a huge compromise
for everybody
to begin with. Yeah. So it's, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm close to going back to anything, but hopefully soon, hopefully in the new year.
Let's hope, man. Let's hope. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions. I ask all of my guests. What advice would you give a filmmaker trying to break into the business today, past COVID? Like,
yeah. Like, don't quit. Find a way not to quit. Like, that's the number. I think a lot of people just quit, but it's about perseverance. And also recognizing what the idea or project to really put, because I do believe it's important to, you want to have a lot of irons in the fire, but you want to put all your eggs in the basket that deserves those eggs. So it's about having the self-awareness and like the taste to know what idea is worth kind of really investing a lot of your time in, because I see that a lot. Just there's a passion project that it's like, man, this is not the one. It's like, you just have to know. You just have to kind of be aware of that in a way. And a lot of times it comes from, that's a gut feeling and an instinct. Right. It's the one. It's based on character and it's based on emotion.
Now, can you also let everybody know, because I'm assuming a lot of people listening right now think that you are an overnight sensation, that you made one script and you walked it over to Andy and Andy said, sure. And you got $5 million, you won Sundance and your career got exploded. Please tell everybody how long this overnight success actually took.
We went to Palm Springs
I'm talking about like the beginning of your career.
Oh, like I graduated college in 2013 or 2011 and started like doing freelance doc stuff and writing then, and then what is it? 2020. So like 9 years of like chasing it in a way, but not, that's part of it. It's the journey, you're never ready, like nothing to put into the work if it just happens. You have you have no foundation to stand. Like you need that always. And now it's about, even when you're done with the project, it's about starting over. You're back to zero. So you also have to like figure out who you are now to like put that into the project, which is a whole nother, layer of the process, at least for me personally.
Yes.
But with Palm Springs, that started in like 2015, the first seed of the idea, and kind of in just in like mid 2016. So it's been, man, it takes time. We're not doing just this, but it's like, that's the one. Like I'm saying, I'm like, this feels special. This feels like it could be really cool. So we can't quit on it.
Now, what is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film business or in life?
I think patience for sure. I mean, we're talking about it, but like patience, and being okay with being in the moment, being okay, like being zen about the work, and like, and just persevering, and not turning off that, whether it's writing or in the edit or whatever, turning off that critical voice in your head and just kind of leaning into the process. That takes, I think, a little bit of experience.
And what is the biggest fear you had to overcome to make this film? What was that thing that you had to kind of like, I got to get past this in order to even be able to set foot on set?
I I think failure, just the fear, you just, getting past that and, not putting the carpet like before the horse, so to speak. And yeah, just not even thinking about what it was going to end up as, just kind of, again, engaging with the process.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show. And 3 of your favorite films of all time.
Oh, man. I would say Boogie Nights is definitely in there. I would say I Vitelloni, the Fellini movie, is really good.
This makes sense. Both films makes perfect sense so far. So far, you're on point. You're on brand so far. So far, you're on brand.
And I would also say I love Basketball a lot. I watched that again recently.
Basketball. I haven't seen Basketball in forever.
Like a very somehow underrated movie.
It has aged well. I think it's gotten much better with age.
It's like sports fandom has become even more ridiculous on that. It's like, it's so. And
then it's that they actually created that entire sport.
Yeah.
Like there's rules.
Yeah. The commitment, that's what, like, again, learning from the Lonely Island, and so it's just like the silliest stuff. Such commitment goes into that, and that's the genius of it. It's so, all that, the silliest stuff is always like so dense and so smart and so well thought out. Basketball, I just love.
Excellent choices, my friend. Excellent choices. Max, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, brother. I wish you continued success. You are an inspiration to all of us independent filmmakers out here. You have walked the path that many of us dream to walk. So I truly appreciate you sharing your adventures with us, and continued success, man. I wish you the best.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
I want to thank Max for coming on the show and inspiring the tribe today. It is truly amazing to feel like you were in the room when these big deals were being made at Sundance. And again, it really, really inspired me tremendously. And I recommend everybody listening to go watch Palm Springs on Hulu. It is a really, really great film. Now, if you want to get links to anything we spoke about in this episode, please head over to the show notes at indiefilmhustle.com/438. And guys, I know most of us were not able to make it to Sundance this year, but if you want to feel like you're at Sundance, you should check out my movie that I shot at the Sundance Film Festival about 3 crazy filmmakers trying to hunt down a producer and sell their movie at the festival, called On the Corner of Ego and Desire. You can check that out at egoanddesirefilm.com. It's free on Amazon and on IFH TV. Thank you so much for listening, guys. As always, keep that hustle going. Keep that dream alive. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.